All right, then. Welcome, everybody. This is our Monday, week of January 25th, briefing of the Mason County Commission. I do not see Frank on the line yet.
Yeah, he's on.
There he is. Frank,
Yeah,
are you ready to begin?
absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and go forward.
So outside of our agenda, we have Ross and we have Todd who are going to speak about the issue with the phone system this morning. So I'll turn it over to Ross.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say there's no issue with our phone system. Our phone system actually is working properly. It's just overwhelmed with the amount of calls. We have only a certain amount of lines coming in and going out. And with this opening up this morning for the COVID registration and information lines and everything like that, it just started to overwhelm the system. We only have so many lines, like I said, coming in, and people are getting an interesting message from Verizon when they call and they're using Verizon about the lines, or we cannot make your connection at this time. And so everything's working there, and everything is still working on the internet, or else we probably all wouldn't be able to get in on this meeting. And I was able to pop in real quick. So it seems to be working really well. It is a third-party vendor that they're using that goes through our system as far as a link to get to that system for people to try to register to get in for the shot. So I imagine all of today is going to be pretty hectic because everybody's going to be wanting to call today to get in this first group that's going out. And as far as I know, we're only looking at 2,000 vaccinations. So those will go rather quickly. We do also have that 588 number, which is for folks that cannot go on the internet or do not have the internet, so we can get them signed up. And we also have one for the non-English speaking Spanish folks. We have a person there that can also take that registration for folks. So Todd, anything else on that one? Tej?
No, that's about it. We only have 48 incoming lines. So I think we're just completely maxed out. We normally average around 8 calls simultaneously. So to hit 48 is pretty unheard of.
TJ and Ross, this is Diane. Can someone put a message at the top of the web page saying that our phone system is overwhelmed, but just to keep trying?
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
You know, guys, with that being said, though, this shows that we have an issue. If there's one earthquake or one natural catastrophe, we cannot communicate with each other through these extensions because people don't know each other's personal numbers and personal lines. I ran into that with a situation this morning where I had to get a hold of one specific department, did not have the personal contact information, kept calling back with 2 different phones at the same time, and finally got through at the right time. But you can imagine the panic in a community if there's no way of getting through, and our inability to do our job if we can't communicate with each other. So we may want to find maybe a secondary number for staff or some other concept just to make sure that we're safe in the future to be able to have our own internal communications. Just my 2 cents.
And I agree with that. That's part of that succession planning that Will's working on with people to make sure that we can put in together some kind of a secondary phone system, not system, but a phone list, so that we have so we can get that out to everybody. Everybody that has company phones or county phones, there is a list of those folks. We can get that out. That's not private information. It's just the folks that are using their own private phone. That's the one where we can say, hey, do you want this to be your secondary contact number? If so, okay, we will use that. And let them know it's going to be posted to all the other county employees. So.
But even still, we'll need more than that because they're not going to have that with them when this happens. Being able just to have that to contact whoever you need to. We may want to consider having something where we can have direct contact from staff to call that number, one number that they all have to know or something.
Oh, that we could put a message on or something like that?
Or some way to get a hold of each other through the back channels if it's backlogged like that. If they need to get a hold of emergency management or get a hold of you, they're not going to be carrying your phone number around from the judge's office, is my point.
Well, I'm kind of jilted from them not doing that. You know, I thought everybody did the way I get phone calls, you know.
Ross, in a case like this, would Alert Sense work?
Alert Sense would work, yes. Yeah.
And you should have contact information through that for those that want to include their personal.
Right, and that is web-based, so we can do that. I could do that from here at the house, or I could do it off my cell phone or wherever there that way. We also do have the line for the weather line. I believe, Diane, isn't there a line that we use for the county employees for weather?
Extension 678.
Yeah, that maybe we could bolster that one too also.
But see, if it's an extension, then you still run into the same problem. You can't put an extension unless you put it in.
Right.
That's what happened today. The Belfair number, the 275 number, is that still operational?
Yes.
Because when I tried to use that one, there was no sound, no nothing, just silence. So I don't know if that's part of that same backup issue, but there was nothing. Just and
okay, so we can look at doing a separate number that is a 427 number, but or 426 or whatever it can be. That we can just put a message line on it and call it employee message line, but that's not going to get to the individuals though.
No, but if you had a backdoor number that each person has, I could still call that number, put the extension in. That's what I was talking about. A number that doesn't get overwhelmed because the public isn't using that specific number. We use it for internal communications only.
Okay, I don't know. We'll have to research that one. That's an interesting one. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, that's doable. Yeah. That's the same way your DEM lines work out at Public Works. Yeah. You have backdoor DEM lines.
We have a backdoor DEM line. That's 7535 number.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Commissioners, any comments on any of this?
No, I would just say, this kind of does dovetail with the cybersecurity update and just sort of this, our critical infrastructure. I think you guys do a great job at keeping on top of everything, but I think it's also good for us to know more of, what we need to be thinking about and how we prioritize that given this morning's blip and some other things that, have been happening nationally and even internationally. And so it's always a good conversation to have. And I think, I talked to Ross about some of these things a couple of weeks ago and, going back to the Cascadia Rising, exercise that was held here back in 2016, and dusting off some of those things and, thinking about just how we remain prepared. So really a timely conversation.
Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that this morning was unusual, and I truly felt for our receptionists and everybody out there because it was pretty crazy. However, I would like to just encourage people to please be patient. Use the website. It's quick. It's easy. It's got the little, I don't know what you call it. It's that little code that you can just scan with your phone, and it's quick and easy. Encourage you to do that, and just be patient because this is a big project, and we understand that there's a lot of people that would like to get vaccinated. Wish we could do everybody all at once, but we are limited. But that's about it.
I did bring up the crop dusting kind of thing, and for some reason that didn't go. I don't know why, but I brought that one up. So
yeah, I was for that one.
All right, thank you guys. Frank, we ready to go into the next one?
Sure. One more item before we jump into our agenda. Patsy from District Court asked that her item be removed for this briefing, and it'll be brought back at a future briefing.
So noted.
The next item is the payback of the 2020 traffic diversion. On an annual basis, the traffic diversion for traffic policing expenditures collects more money than is authorized under the certification for tax levies. There's no way for the treasurer to estimate exactly how much the percentage of the tax levy needs to be charged for the tax expenditures. So as a result, we end up over collecting on our tax levy for traffic policing. In addition, the traffic department charges items to that department's expenditures that are not allowable under CRAB. For instance, uniform cleaning is not allowed. They spent $7,725 last year. Towing is not allowed, $182.28. And motor pool capital costs for $96,833 are allowed. However, tracking those capital costs under traffic policing is a huge undertaking, and we've elected not to do that. We charge those directly into the sheriff's budget and transfer the cost when we charge the monthly charge for the vehicles from Enterprise. So with the pluses and the minuses, what ends up happening is we have a $64,940.84 transfer that needs to go from current expense back to the road fund to cover the over-collected traffic diversion for 2020. And this is a request to authorize us to do that transfer.
That's odd though, even with without those chargebacks, that's about the number we normally send back.
It's been as high as 120,000, 130,000. So it varies every year. And we kind of budget for it, but you don't know exactly what the number is going to be. So, this year it's just under 65,000.
Okay. Commissioners, any issue with any of that?
Not for me.
No, I'm good.
Okay, next.
Next item, we have Ross with the Parks and Trails project update. You still there, Ross?
Trying to unmute. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. I had a dog barking like crazy here. I'd like to start off, sorry about that. I'd like to start off with talking a little bit about our RCO projects that are out there. We have 2 RCO projects that are coming to completion, which is a really nice thing. The first one is the Hood Canal. It shouldn't be Hood Canal. I don't know why I have that under there. It is Hood Canal multipurpose field, which is actually at the school itself. That one is turned into a really nice project. If you haven't been out by there off of 106, it looks like a totally different place. They've done a very good job of working on that field. Excuse me for 1 second, if I could, just to climb a dog up real quick here. Excuse me.
As Ross is tending to that, I could tell you, if you haven't seen the track or the field project at Hood Canal School, it does look really great. It's a huge improvement over what had been there before, and so it's really cool to see that come together.
It's funny. I had somebody get mad at me because of something that was happening at the Shelton School, saying, "Why don't we have anything like that up in North Mason?" And it was amazing that they didn't know all the things that the county had partnered with to create that beautiful field, the turf there at North Mason School District. And after you explain it to them, it's not even so much as a, "Oh, sorry, didn't know." Just you son of a, no, just kidding.
Yeah.
It's
already
and another thing.
Okay, so the Hood Canal, that is pending its final review and final completion. That was a $457,775 with the same match. They actually are putting some extra money into this from on their side, not on the RCO side. They needed to just take care of some trees and some other things that were issues there that really, this should be done as soon as, I imagine probably by April, we'll have this one closed out completely. Once somebody from RCO can come there and actually take a look at it. They're currently not allowed to work in the field with the COVID. So our second RCO project was the
real quick question on that. So the Commissioner Netherland mentioned the project in North Mason. I recall there being like a group that had to be on there or to ensure public access. I know Commissioner Netherland is on that. Is there a similar setup for this one? How does this one?
Right. It's almost all run through. It's run through the school and people on the board. I'm on with them that if anybody wants to use it in the community, it is going to be open for community use. We are limited to after school hours is what they wanted to kind of do. They are going to have a closing time for it also, because we do want to make sure that we keep the integrity of it and keep the security issues and the vandalism and all that stuff down as much as possible.
Right.
But yeah, will be open.
So it is a similar setup, and
right.
There is a public access requirement.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah, on the last one we had there had been a couple of complaints, and RCO specifically stepped in and required that committee to be created. I don't think that's happened in your situation yet, but keep it on your calendar because eventually it probably will.
Oh, it will. I'm sure. Yeah. Happens to one, happens to all. There you go. Okay, and on to our second project, which is the MCR irrigation project. It is what's called substantially completed. Waiting for spring to do the irrigation control efficiency test. We just have to wait till it, defrost and, get out there and put some water out of it. The final walkthrough for RCO is still pending also with that one. We were able to complete not only the outfields for spraying for water, we are also able to complete the inner workings of the park itself. We got a really good deal with that with these folks while they were already there. It's all hooked into one system. It's a computer operated system, which I got to say, thanks to TJ. He was out there trying to get this all hooked up since it's completely different. The old system was manual. Now Bud can use his cell phone to just start this stuff up from his house, from wherever, or shut it off or do whatever he needs to do. It's all computer programmed and it's web-based. So he can do it from wherever he's at. We're looking at that one. Actually, the RCO grant and county match was $621,888 and some change. We still have remaining funds in that one. That is either match funds, half match, half RCO of a little bit over 28,000. So we were able to come in under budget on that one. So even with the additional inside the park that wasn't originally set up in that bid for that project. So yeah, so we're waiting on that one. Hopefully that, once again, April, we should have that one closed out. Any questions about MCRA? Okay, let's go on to next one is the baseball and softball scheduling season for 2020 and 21. Well, it was pretty simple for 2020. We didn't do it. We opened the parks for when they could be for people to come in. We had such limitations from the COVID that back and forth, and at one time we had to close actually, get the doc to the public health officer to give a notice because people were not following the directions that were given about limitations on folks coming in and playing together on the fields. But what we're trying to do for 2021 is we're taking reservations. Right now, they are allowed through COVID to have limited practices with the amount of people in it. If we get to phase two, or I should say when we get to phase two, they will be able to actually have games, but no tournaments. So we're going to go ahead and get everything started. We're going to, just like it's a regular season, like COVID didn't happen. And then, so when it does pop up that we get to be a phase 2, these people are already in line for their games and their practices and everything set forth. The big issue is tournaments. A lot of the tournaments that we have that come in, those are ones that really draw us the money and do really well for those. Those are still not going to be allowed in phase 2. So we're going to have to wait on those. And that's kind of a rough one. There.
Hey, Ross,
So yes.
when do tournaments typically happen? What time of year?
They're usually, you get them in June, July, August, toward the end. Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting because we haven't seen what phase 3 is going to look like yet. There is no phase 3 yet. So that'd be kind of interesting if that would be allowed in phase 3. And I'm sure they're working on it, but they haven't even given us a glimpse of what that's going to look like.
Right. I doubt that phase 3 will even be talked about until we have more people vaccinated.
Oh, that's for sure. That is for sure. So we're not looking at it probably for this year. No. So, which is kind of sad because those are really nice. Those are when people really get together and have a good time. So yeah, makes it tough. Yeah. Okay. So we're still, once again, we are still taking reservations for practices only. I've talked to a lot of the coaches because they had concerns. They still have to have the return to play plan. They have to have all that stuff in place, mask still on and the whole bit. And they understand that, but they're just happy to get the kids out to get them out to play. Get them this, even if it's just practice play, they're good to go for that. So the next thing, if there's any other questions on that? Okay, the next one is vandalism in the park. We've had an influx of vandalism in the parks, especially Sunset Bluff Park and also Jacoby Park have been hit pretty hard. We imagine it's a lot of the same folks doing both, since there was at least one common denominator, and I got the sheriff's office involved in it, and they stopped him and talked to him, and now he's trespassed from both parks, not allowed to be in either one of the parks. He had a boat, and he would just blast through our fence or blast through the gate and go down and park there so he could get on his little dinghy and get out to his boat that was out in the canal. And that's just a no-go. And they've taken care of that. We haven't had much problems with him. We are changing a few things up at Sunset Park. We're putting in a metal gate, one of the big ones that like what they use on the Forest Service Road, putting one of those in because what was out there originally was a cattle gate, and they just ran right through that thing. And we're also setting up a turning area where once that's closed for the day, when the park is closed, that they can turn around. They don't have to go on people's private property and back up and go down their driveways or whatever. We want to make sure that we keep those folks happy that are right there around the park. Jacoby Park, they actually bashed out the center of the sign and then took the sign down. And that park is kind of interesting because it is a kind of, even though it's in the middle of the Shorecrest area there, it's still kind of secluded. And there's some interesting folks that are over there that there's a lot of stuff going on in that park that we're trying to get a hamper on. But we did look at the boat launch itself that's there. And that actually is a very nice boat launch. Very simple to use. There's plenty of parking around it for people to use it. We just don't see people using it very often. So we are going to try to change some things up with that and try to make it a little more attractive to people. So we figure if we see more people who are down there, there's be less chance of vandalism going on. We also are looking at possibly putting in a park host up at the Sunset Bluff. Once we can make sure that there's electric, water, septic, or any of the above, or whatever we can do to get somebody in there so that they can help out with this, so they can open and close the gates. But in the meantime, the residents up there have stepped up, and they wrote a really nice letter of their concerns. And not only did they say their concerns, they came in with some problem solving. And one of them was they would open and close the gate for us during those hours when the park is closed. So we're going to probably take them up on that until we get a park host up in there in that area. So that's about it for those two. Other parks have been doing very good. We haven't had much problems. The park hosts are really good at keeping people on their toes of what's going on and keeping an eye out. They do report back into Ann and to Carl. So if there is any issues, and we haven't had many issues with other parks. Okay, on to Sandhill Park Tunnel. I'm working with Public Works on that to complete the striping has been done on the road, the flashing lights up there on Sandhill for the area. All of that has gotten done. We have a few things that are still on a checklist for Rispool for underneath the inside the tunnel itself. Lights have been purchased for that. There's some caps that need to go in on top of some bolts that are in underneath there, and then we'll be able to use that. It is not handicap accessible, but we do have a different location that is handicap accessible for the upper fields to go to the lower fields. There's a few other things like on the lower field, we have to put a mesh net or something up for foul balls so that if you're coming out of the tunnel, you don't get whacked in the head by a ball that was hit. So we're going to put those up and we're going to clean up a little bit more of a path for people to use so they don't just walk out onto the field. There is a path there, but it needs to be cleaned up and made available for people to use it. So that's going to be an ongoing project for us. Next is Vladimir's Landing, the boat launch. We've been dealing with this for 2 years, almost 3 years now. This year, we're going to have to get a contractor to come in and get that last float that's on there and get that taken care of. I had divers go in there last year to look at it and see what was the deal. And a lot of the straps are missing, and it just needs an overhaul and complete maintenance on that last one. That's the one where the people are driving their boats into it and leaving it on kind of not a high idle, but I guess you would say high idle while they jump off to go use the bathrooms or whatever. And that causes a lot of problems on that dock. We had a little bit of vandalism on the dock, a little spray painting that was done. That was taken off. It was at the beginning of the COVID time when all the kids were off, and you could tell by what they spray painted that it was done by kids. And we have only had that one incident, no other incidents with that there. So, okay. That'll be probably a REIT 2 project is what we're looking at, because the original boat dock, there was a REIT 2 project. So we'll be able to do some maintenance on that with REIT $2. And then the last one I have listed on here is the Union boat launch. Public Works has paved the aprons to the launch, which is good. We've been looking at a lot of the issues. We're looking at the old one that was a couple years back, obviously probably about 7 or 8 years back now, with DNR and Fish and Wildlife and Ecology, how they wanted to expand the dock itself. And the expansion of the dock, okay, I could see doing that, but we're still losing out on one major big problem. It's a traffic problem and a parking problem. With looking at this with the wildlife and them to make arrangements to look at the improvements, that's great. But the big problem is when people are pulling off of 106, that we're just waiting for something to happen there that's going to be bad. And if it's perceivable, it's preventable. So we need to come up with some ideas. We have talked to the folks from the club out there. I'm sorry, I lost the name of it. Can someone help me on that? What's the
You think
Alderbrook. Got it. Came back. Talked to Alderbrook, and they have a shuttle that they use for an upper area that you can park your boats up there and shuttle down. But I'm sure it's not for free. that they're, wouldn't make sense for them to do it for free for people at the public boat launch. But we just need to figure out some way of coming up with a place, how they can get them there, how they can come back, if they want to use that area for parking their trailers, because there really is not that much room to pull a trailer down. And you could park maybe 4 trailers at the most if they're end to end, still leaving room to get down there. So it's something that we're going to continue to work on. I'm working on this with Loretta and Engineer Smith, and we're going to try to get this all taken care of, hopefully, and come up with some kind of a plan or something that will work to help that out. And I am very open for suggestions from anybody about what we can do for that all the way around. So,
are there any properties that are across the street on the poor side of the street that may be available? That whole area up there, you have the hillsides, and people own property on the water side, and then also on the other side of the street, they may not have to have that we may be able to purchase with REIT dollars.
I can definitely look into that. I know that's some prime property, prime property right in there. But yeah, we can do that. We can look
You'd be
into it.
surprised how many little valleys there are inside there that may be accessible that are back inside, but you can get access from the road. I don't know that particular location. I haven't looked at it for that, but.
And if they have to just walk across the road, that's a breeze compared to where this other one's at, where they're going to have to take a transport. So yeah, that's a good idea. I'll look into those, see if there's anything open over in that area. Okie doke. Alrighty. That's about it. That's kind of our update of what's going on currently right now. We will have a REIT 2 project list coming for you. Working on that. I believe we're going to be trying to do that, have that to you for next month.
So,
Yes.
so just a quick point or question, or I don't know what you want to call it, comment, maybe all of the above. So, Commissioner Netherland has been talking about prioritizing some money per commissioner district for parks and trails within each commissioner district. What's it going to take for us to be able to have that conversation and start seriously looking at dedicating some money to that? I think it's been something we've kicked around for at least as long as I've been here, maybe even longer. But I think this briefing today shows that there are some needs. They're in all 3 of the commissioner districts, and it's just what can we do to help facilitate that conversation and try to move that forward.
Well, one of the things what I like to do is I like to look at our comp plan and actually not only the comp plan, but what we know that needs to be done, and put a listing together that I can give to you, the commissioners for your district, and then see which ones you would like to, prioritize to get those done that way. And then we can figure out the dollars and cents, what needs to go with those.
Ross, at the same time, and thank you, Commissioner Schutte, because I have been pushing this for years and years. I'd be happy if this is our final opportunity. But yes, the comp plan and bringing that stuff forward might be great, but the commissioners have a lot of knowledge that we could also run through to have included in the comp plan. But we haven't had that opportunity to have those discussions, and it would be good if we could start that process as well.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah, maybe we begin by just, in a couple of weeks, you bringing that comp plan to us as part of a briefing, and we have a study session, and we just kind of go line by line through it. I know it's tedious, and it's, might not seem like a huge priority given all the other things that we have, that we have going on, but I think it's past time that we dig into that work.
Yeah. And there's a lot of it that's already been done, or things that have changed since then, since it was originally written. And Frank has already assigned that to me and Kelly to look at our REITs and look at our comp plans and get that started. So it's already in the run. Yeah.
You can imagine the expansion, or the looking at property across the street from this is not going to be on that or in the comprehensive.
Oh, no.
We're going to need to bring that forward as a commission. Commissioner Trask, you got any thoughts on this?
No, I think it's a great idea. I think, and I know that we've talked about this since, definitely since I've been here, but prioritizing and getting that list going, I think is a great idea.
Okay.
Just to update the commission, Ross, as mentioned by Ross and Kelly are working on reconciling their list of projects that we've had with the comp plan and then bringing that forward to the board here in the next couple of weeks. The next item we have is cybersecurity. Todd?
Morning.
Morning.
So you guys requested that we put together a little briefing outlining the county's cybersecurity plan. I hope you had time to look over that. Overall, I feel we're in pretty good shape. We seem to handle any threat that comes our way so far. My biggest concern is the end user training. The statistics I've found show that 98% of attacks nowadays are coming directly to the end user. So I feel that's where we're the weakest, and we could definitely explore some options in the future for some more training there.
Are you thinking Zoom mandatory training?
Mandatory training is a possibility. I would like to get back into do you remember the emails we sent out previously that would kind of the fake spam emails that would catch people and put them through a training?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I never clicked on one of those, luckily.
Well, you passed then. I think it was 2 years ago we were running a little test program with that. I would like to start that back up again and just explore what other options are out there for end users. So.
That's a good one. I don't know that you need to wait on that one, commissioners. Do you think you need to wait on that one?
No, I think that'd be a good starting point for sure.
Yeah.
Save the list of who does it, though, for our entertainment.
Well, unfortunately, before it was very successful. So
a lot of people got trained. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that Frank sent out one. Well, Frank.
Oh, yeah. The Apple Music cards.
Yeah. We've been getting a lot lately, and you can't catch them all. It changes so quickly that the system just doesn't keep up with it. But yeah, it's an everyday occurrence now. So
I get it all the time. I think I showed Commissioner Schutte. I get it in Russian. Literally, it's all in Russian.
Yep.
Well, and then if they're using like the one for the Apple cards, they used a legitimate Frank's. They just used his email address, and you're thinking, wow, that really came from Frank, because it looks right, and it just wasn't right. You got to look at the contents too of what they're asking you to do. Is one of the biggest things. And I know Diane brought that up, that there's also, I believe there was some other training that's out there from MRSC coming up on that we're going to look at that also.
Well, for the record, just so anybody gets the message, I don't need any Apple Pay cards. That isn't if it comes up.
Yeah, I was wondering what kind of music Frank was listening to.
Yeah, $800 worth they were asking for.
Oh, wow.
What else you got, Todd?
Well, I know here just in the last week, one of our neighboring counties, I've yet to hear who had an attack. We've gotten very limited details on what has actually happened yet. I've requested those as soon as they're available, but one thing they did say is to make sure you have a backup system that's separate from the rest of your network, which we do. So I'm assuming they must have lost their backups as well. We use a completely separate standalone backup appliance that has its own unique password, and so we should be isolated against that kind of attack. So in worst case, if something did get into our network and take it down, we have full backups of everything network-wise. We don't back up users' computers, but we should be okay and be able to restore everything. It just takes time at that point.
Does it work on a date? For example, it's been backed up as of January 25th, or is it a fluid backup?
We back up nightly. We've talked about doing some fluid backups on some more critical stuff. It's just a matter of, balancing the load of everything. So worst case right now, we could lose a day's worth of work, which in some systems is a lot, in some systems it's nothing. So
How many terabytes or whatever we're using for size would it take to do a one-time backup and keep it completely separate?
A full backup of everything would be close to 10 terabyte.
Okay. That's not that big that wouldn't be that expensive to do something like that as a redundancy to redundancy step.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty good size. It takes quite a long time to pull that much data in, but yeah, I mean, you can get a standalone hard drive nowadays that will, a little box that we could back that up on and stick it away. But the problem is, the data moves so quick that a backup that's a week old is useless. So that's why we try to have everything once a day. So
we say that unless we have a crash and lose everything, and then that backup that was a year old would sure be appreciated.
Yeah, that's true.
And especially since that cost is so small, that's not a very big cost. But it probably would be in your hours to do it, though.
Yeah, it would definitely take some time. We would talk probably close to 48 hours, a full weekend to pull a backup like that, a completely fresh one. So,
right.
You guys have any other questions?
Commissioners?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
So the backup, that includes the courts and the sheriff's office as well, correct?
It includes anything that's on our servers, yeah. Yeah, so the court server, anything the sheriff stores on their server.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, how about like working with outside vendors that we have programming through, or so I'm thinking like SmartGov or others, that we work with. How do our standards maybe align with their standards for protecting information and data? Are there things that we should be thinking about as we look at those service agreements and contracts that maybe we haven't really paid attention to in the past?
Well, there's always concerns there, but it also depends on the type of service they're providing. So like SmartGov, for instance, they're just a website. They have no access into our network. We access them. So, they have their own security procedures for their data and how our data is stored on their network. But luckily, we don't have to concern them coming into us. The few vendors we do allow access into us, we have, controls set up so they can only access certain things. Most of that's just vendors that will do support on their systems. But we don't really use any vendors that have direct access into our network. The only one, probably the person that has the most access is Macecom flowing through our network to get to the state. But other than that.
And then the election, how that one went with the election. If we can talk about that just a little bit.
The election was really interesting. We were lucky that the state set up some resources for us, and we were able to work with the DART team, who Microsoft refers to as their SEAL Team 6 for internet security. So they were able to provide some tools. We deployed them throughout the county and let them just analyze traffic in the background. And all that data was sent directly to Microsoft so they could run it through their algorithms and look for anything strange and alert us to it. And so throughout the whole time we were running it, which was multiple months, we had 2 alerts from them, which I was pretty surprised with and pretty happy with. And they were ultimately just minor alerts. So we had no security issues at that time. And then we've also been doing some penetration testing from a federal provider, CISA, test us once a week for any kind of outside open ports, anything that someone could potentially get in. And at first we did have some issues with some legacy systems, some older, like our FTP site had a couple security patches it needed. But we got all those patched up and we're passing every week now, but we continue to do it just so if anything changes, we'll know right away.
Great.
All right. Anything else on that?
No, just really appreciate it. This stuff is really, I think, concerning to a lot of people, us included. So appreciate you guys keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. What else we got there?
This is Diane. I just wanted to confirm your meeting schedule, and starting in March, I was intending to start scheduling briefings every Monday. And then the Tuesday meetings were still scheduled every other Tuesday. Any concerns with that?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so next Monday there is a briefing, then February 8th there is, then we have a holiday, then it's briefing, and after that there'll be briefing every Monday.
Like starting in March.
So just
Correct.
along those lines, are we, with the extension of the OPMA restrictions, are we still kind of in line with that? If we're adding, we feel like we're okay.
Yes, because we can have the remote meetings and we don't have to allow the in-person yet. We're not allowed to, so we're good.
Commissioner, did you mean as in doing only the meetings that are necessary?
Yeah.
No, they lightened that one up like last fall. They took some of that language out, and I am watching too. I see there's some new bills coming up in the legislature on remote meetings and whatnot. So, but no, we're still okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody agreed?
Right in line. We've been watching that very carefully to make sure that we follow the guidelines and are very transparent. So I really do enjoy having the meetings with Diedrich, and I think it's making it easier for people to see what's going on and to understand why things happen the way that they do.
So, Commissioner Schutte, you have no objection to moving to a meeting every Monday?
Oh, no, just wanted to make sure we were on the right path with the OPMA restrictions.
Then it sounds like that's what we're doing, Diane.
Yes.
Anything further, Frank?
Nope, that's all we have. Thank you, commissioners.
Anything?
I have something.
Hi. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Dawn. I just wanted to let you commissioners know that Mason General Hospital has allowed us or offered us to do a vaccine clinic for our employees who meet the 1B. Right now, I know that we can do 75 shots. I've sent out that email to everybody. They have to qualify, self-qualify. I'm not policing that. I've worked with Dave Windom, Frank, Ross, everybody to make sure, and Commissioner Trask to make sure that that was okay and there's no favorable treatment. They do have to meet the same qualifications. And we're making sure that our law enforcement, detention, jail are all on that list too. And anybody who was missed from an earlier shot. So those emails, that email has gone out and I'm already receiving people responding to it. It's not mandatory for anybody to get that shot from the employer. So I just wanted you to know in case you had any questions.
Is it just them or them and their family that fit that criteria?
It's my understanding it's just them. I'm not supposed to extend this out to the public. That's Dave Windom's job and through his system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, can I make, for TJ, can you make sure for our guys, because our guys are going into the jail quite a bit, that they get on the priority list, and the ones that want it, contact Dawn.
All right. Anything else? Commissioner, do you have anything for them? All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay. If I remember correctly, Sharon was the next up. Sharon Fogo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking your time out of your day today to listen to my briefing to try and get succession plan for 2 individuals that are retiring from my office this spring. I will be losing 31 years of experience when they leave, which will be quite challenging to fill their fill their shoes essentially. So I'm hoping that you would allow me to hire 2 individuals out of this pool that I just hired from, exceptional individuals that I think will do well in our office and hopefully be able to stay as long as the ones that are leaving have stayed. So the duties that the senior clerks that are leaving include, communication with multi-agencies, from Department of Licensing to Department of Corrections to the prison systems and things like that. So, they know all of these details that they'll need to pass that information along to the person that's coming in behind them. It's an access to justice question as far as making sure that the public knows what our expectations are for filling the void. And so there'll be lots of learning for the people that are coming in, and I am hopeful that we can get that started now instead of waiting until the senior clerks are actually gone. So we'll be able to better serve the public, knowing, having them trained prior to those people leaving. And sometimes it's easier to train 2 people at one time instead of having staggered learning. And of course, the costs, I sent that information out about how much in difference in wages it will be, and what the quote unquote savings will be by having these senior people gone. So do you have any questions?
Yeah, so what you're asking for, Sharon, is a 2-month crossover period with these employees?
That's correct.
And you're not asking for a any budget adjustment, as you'll have within your budget because of the savings on the retirement of the 2 that are at upper level?
Exactly.
I'm supportive.
Yep, so am I.
Okay.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate that so much.
Okay. Anything for Sharon, guys?
No, thank you, Sharon.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Have a good day.
Same to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, Dave. Dave Windom. As you can tell, I'm not on the Wire of 15 call.
Yeah.
And neither are you.
And neither am I. But as soon as I get this done, I'm going to jump on there. So,
okay.
Yeah, we got to be involved in that. So this morning, commissioners, I have just a quick thing, and it's an MOU with Mason General Hospital, and this will just establishes the nature of relationship doing the COVID vaccine clinics going forward. So we're going to be doing a lot of clinics with those folks, and their concern was without an MOU, it could be looked at as gifting of public funds. So this is a kind of a boilerplate from their attorney. I did send it over to Tim. I've not heard back. It looks pretty good. So that's out there.
Questions?
And just a quick comment. I think that having a relationship with the hospital is critical right now. Plus, I think it adds to our relationship with them in the future.
Yeah, this whole COVID experience has really brought that partnership with the hospitals and with Peninsula Community Health Systems together in a way that we haven't had in the past. And I mean, we're really sharing resources back and forth. So this is a place that we have not been in the past, and this just gives their attorneys a little more comfort.
Dave, do you anticipate needing this with anybody else that we're providing vaccines with?
Probably not. With Peninsula, they're running their own clinics. We're just providing a little bit of support through area command, so not necessarily through the county itself. And then Mason General is really our other partner. We're going to, as we start to get vaccine out to the pharmacies, when that starts coming through, they'll be on their own. So I think this is probably the only one we'll need to do.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dave on that? Are we all okay with moving forward to put on the agenda?
I think so. Tim, I'm sorry.
Kevin?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we're having a clinic on the 30th. Do we need to get this signed?
It would be helpful if we could get it signed before then.
So we would need to have a special meeting to do that.
Good.
Are you requesting a special meeting, Dave?
Yeah, if we could, a 10-minute special meeting would be, something we could do maybe tomorrow, maybe just for the Board of Health meeting.
Yeah, Diane, we have to put it out there. Are you comfortable with doing that and having it before the Board of Health meeting?
Yeah, we can announce a 2:30 special meeting tomorrow, and it would be only for this interlocal agreement then?
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody comfortable with that?
I am.
Then
I am.
We'll move forward with that. Diane, please put it out there.
Can we make
Okay.
sure that it's been reviewed by Tim first? I mean, not first, but before we sign it.
Yeah, first, you're right.
Dave, did you send it to Whitehead?
Yes, I did.
All right, anything further on that?
Nope, that's it. I can update you on the clinic registration this morning, filled up in half an hour. So we're looking to set up some midweek clinics starting next week based on what we get from our from the state on allocations. So we're going to have a conversation with a couple of folks, community folks, as locations to do this, but I don't want to put that out just now. So
And if we can, let's make sure that we remember the different areas such as, the Hoodsport area, the Canal School District would be a good one to consider.
Yep. So, and then it'll be in partnership again with Mason General. So.
Excellent.
Dave, so that was, so 1,000 spots were taken up in a half an hour.
Yeah, about 600 spots. We had to kind of dial it back a little bit based on traffic flow that we walked through that again. And this will be the first one. 600 is a good target.
Yeah.
And then we can scale it up from there.
Okay. And then do you, you don't have it now, that's fine, but could you get us a breakdown of how many of those were done through the website and how many of those were done via phone?
Yeah. In fact, she's still on the phone down there right now, finishing up some of them. So.
Okay.
Can do.
Perfect.
Now we need to find a way to get it out to everybody so they'll know to leave the phone alone for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we're going to put that on the website, say, okay, the registration is full and really put out the 599 line. In fact, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to give the radio station a call and let them know to put that out as well. So.
Thank you.
So then, Dave, then the other part of it, and just to be clear, so this is a 2-dose thing. Are we also then scheduling for 4 weeks from now?
Yep. And so our next clinic out there will be on February 27th.
Okay.
Yeah, that will be the follow-up second dose clinic. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are people scheduling both of those at the same time, or do they get that appointment?
So as they come through, they'll get their card.
Yeah.
The card will have their first dose on it and then the date for their second dose.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Okay. Next up, you had something from Alex.
Yep, Alex.
Yes, good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
So I'm bringing our water quality. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Bringing our water quality updates back to you this morning. As we discussed in several previous briefings, we've been collecting some feedback from various partners and just kind of continuing to refine this proposal and, what we want to do with our water quality program. Right now, what we're doing is looking into combination of our shellfish protection districts and also the funding mechanisms that can, possible funding mechanisms that we can do for this work. So in our November briefing, Commissioner Noderlin, I believe you brought up some legal concerns regarding the parcel fee and similarities between the historic attempts at this. So I reached out to some various staff partners, spoke with Tim Whitehead to gain some insight. Luckily, Tim worked on this case in 2011, so he had some good information on it. I don't know how much questions you guys have on this or that I'll be able to answer, but so in short, real quickly, 2002, the CD in Mason County assessed a $5 parcel fee to address water resource protection issues. And that was under Authority RCW 89.08, which is different from what we're looking at. And ultimately, it was found that there were some legal issues on how the ordinance was drafted and the fees were assessed according to the specific language within that RCW. So overall, I spoke with Tim and discussed to him about our proposed Spd combination, boundaries, funding possibilities, including a parcel fee, and he didn't see any issue with it. Well, he did feel this was different enough. I do think we should keep him involved on any proposal, though, just because he's got some experience with that previous case. I've also spoke with the assessor's office and treasurer's office. Lisa was really helpful. She's, got some historic experience with some of these SPDs and fees and stuff too, so that was helpful. She talked about the treasurer's office having some cost if a fee was implemented. That would be around 1%. She agreed to work with us on collection of fee and thought it would be easiest to do it from the property taxes standpoint. I guess historically the health department had tried doing billing for a fee like this and it did not go well. And I guess the treasurer's office ended up having to clean it up anyway. So I think that would probably be easiest. Jefferson County also does their collection through property taxes. I also worked with Patty at the assessor's office and she discussed, we went over the fee exemptions and kind of refined our parcel list within the current boundaries. And what kind of parcels would be exempt from these fees. So just to go over that, these would be parcels connected to a sewer, which includes Russellwood, North Bay, Hartstein Point, Belfair, Alderbrook, and Skokomish. The city of Shelton, most of that is connected to sewer. I do think there are some parcels within the city. I know there are connected to septic, but I'm not confident in that list. I think it'd be easiest if we just excluded the parcels within the city. And then also we're designating timberland. Designated timberland would be exempt. And then we also suggested exempting persons that are approved for the senior citizen exemption. So taking all that into account, we came up with about 40,000 parcels.
Timberlands, is that
also the assessors noted,
go ahead. The timberlands, is that a required exclusion or a recommended exclusion?
That's required within the RCW, any designated timberland. So lastly, she noted that she wouldn't be able to collect anything, obviously, this year. She'd be in the 2022. So with, talking with some partners and stuff, I've kind of got some questions that I think would be good to iron out with you all this morning. So I'll kind of go through those unless you guys have some initial questions before I get into that.
I have a few. One, do we have to separate out those that are connected to sewer if we're doing this for a clean water shellfish or some other type of district? The reason why I say that, if there's a catastrophe that does happen, I myself would still like to be able to have zones that are available within the whole so that assessments could be done for emergency cleanup situations if necessary.
Yeah, are you talking emergencies related to sewer then?
No, related to any type of catastrophe that could happen out there. When I was a Port Allen commissioner, we had different things that occurred out in that region. So I'm sure the same things happen all over. And the impact that it has on not just the shellfish, on everybody. Would be shocked to know how many individual homes benefit from the shellfish industry, that they sell their product or they lease their product or they eat and use themselves for their own survival and more than just their pleasure. That when those things are closed, the impacts are huge, and we need to have maybe something in place where a small assessment could be done over a large area to be able to address it quickly, especially if there's a major catastrophe. I'm more worried about the major catastrophes.
How do we handle that now?
Don't know. As a
Well,
commissioner, remember.
Well, I can tell you how we handle downgrades right now. I mean, those are handled, per area, and that's where these existing SPDs have come into play. The 7 that we have, we've gone into these specific areas, created SPDs in response to the downgrades, and then, then we go after funding for grants, and that whole process takes a few years before we actually put boots on the ground. And what we're trying to do with this proposal is come up with a more proactive approach, where we'd still be doing those, going after those grants to follow up with PIC work in specific areas that need it. We would be using some stable funding to try to go at these water quality concerns more proactively, like getting to septic failures that are on the shoreline quicker, maybe doing some ambient water quality work so that we can monitor trends in these areas. And that work would be, county-wide is what we're discussing, based on the amount of shoreline that we have and location of it all. Does that answer your question?
Commissioner, if you don't mind, I want to understand a little bit better. So in an area where we would have a downgrade now under our current plan, we would create the Shellfish Protection District. And could we have been then establishing a fee in there all along, specifically for those areas that were downgraded?
Yes, we could have.
Okay. But we haven't.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry, Commissioner.
Okay. Commissioner Trask, do you have anything?
No, I think it's definitely worth looking into, but I'd like to hear, I think Alex said that he had some clarifying questions for us.
Yeah, so as we work on this proposal and what, this is kind of refining and shaping up to be, our partners have brought up a few questions, and I just wanted to get some feedback from you all on it. So one, SPD boundaries. So these typically follow watersheds, but some people have talked about, a set distance or adjacent to the shoreline, sticking to those parcels, which has just not been done that I can find in other counties. It's been mostly watershed based. So that's what our current proposal was based on. We've taken the 4 of the 5 county watersheds and combined them to create those boundaries, excluding Chehalis watershed because it drains towards Grays Harbor. Any thoughts on that?
On using watersheds?
Could you restate that question, Commissioner?
Alex, do you mean any thoughts on using watersheds as the delineator?
Yeah, so to clarify, using watersheds versus like a set distance from shoreline or adjacent to marine shoreline or some other different mechanism for creating the boundaries.
Yeah, for me, I think watershed makes the most sense because of how drainage works and that kind of thing. But
I think, well, if I can interject, I think it'll probably fit in with the Rco work as well. I guess that's how everything is defined in that work.
Yeah, I think I would just stick with the watershed.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. There was a couple folks that questioned the northwestern. Sorry, go ahead, Randy.
I was just saying you had more?
I do. So there was a couple folks that questioned, we initially included the northwestern area of Hood Canal, and that area is not currently a shellfish protection district. But, one of the attempts at this combination is to reduce administration, reduce our creation of these SPDs. And so that's why it was included. You know, while this area is not an SPD currently, it more than likely is just a matter of time before, you know, some sort of downgrade triggers an SPD, a mandatory SPD to be created there. And we do have quite a bit of PIC work involved in these areas like Hoodsport and north of Hoodsport. Any thoughts on including that within these boundaries, and if you think it should be excluded because it's not currently within the SPD boundaries?
I think it makes sense to make sure that it is included, because also part of the reason for doing this is to make sure it doesn't get downgraded in the future. Being able to track things quickly makes a lot of sense. So I think they need to be included, as would everybody else, if we do this.
Yeah, agreed.
I would agree with that too.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I guess I'll clarify too, this is based on if we do go ahead with this, but in order to kind of refine the program and everything, I need to kind of answer these questions. So undeveloped parcels, out of our 40,000 parcels within the boundaries, about 12,000 of them are undeveloped. And some partners have suggested leaving them out because they're similar to timberland. Well, I agree there's a few undeveloped probably several undeveloped parcels that do have timber and are undeveloped. There's still lots that are used recreationally, and recreational use does affect water quality. There can be some non-point source pollution from that. But looking for your input, that's about 12,000 parcels, which is a pretty good chunk of that 40,000. So would those be exempt from the fee, and what your guys' thoughts are on that?
I don't believe they should be exempt. I think, the greater picture of this is to make sure we have water quality for all of them and to be able to act quickly. As I said, I still am hoping that we look at doing this in a process where there is an assessment, if absolutely necessary, that could happen in each one of these things. But to keep this, one of the reasons why I've always been fighting to keep this cost low is to make sure it doesn't blow up on people. But we need the ability to do things if something bad does happen. So I think all parcels that are not exempt by law should be in it to stretch the cost and keep the burden low for everybody. I think there should be a sunset on this to make sure that it's working properly, and the ability to assess if catastrophes happen.
Do we know what those properties are designated at right now? I mean, are they open space? I'd be interested to know what they are currently.
Yeah, so the undeveloped list that I'm going off of, so it's 12,356, and that includes undeveloped land designation and open space designation. Most of it is just a tax designation of undeveloped. Land use designations is what I'm talking about.
And these parcels can have cattle on them and other things that can contribute.
Yeah, I would be supportive of including them as well, and for the reasons heard today. I also do support the idea of having a sunset with a reauthorization by vote of the commission. I think that makes a lot of sense, just as we develop the program out. Not dissimilar to the process that was used with the 1/10 of 1% treatment sales tax here a few years ago. If the proof of concept plans out the way we think it will, then it's a low risk thing for us, but I think a highly beneficial thing for the community.
And it also helps to maintain that any commission in the future doesn't get out of hand with it and start bringing it up to 50, 60. There's been times where I've been supportive of this, but I've been fighting it for years at the same time, because the amount of money that has come in requested from staff over the years has been very, very high, up well over 100 at one offer. then bringing it down. Then I think I got down to 39, and it just always a worry that if there's not a sunset and some type of control over that, that it could really get out of hand as an easy pocket to pick.
I'd agree.
So Alex, one
Yeah,
question.
and we can certainly write that into our proposal. So are you guys thinking like a 5-year or 10-year, or what would that look like?
I wouldn't, I would say 5 would be probably, I mean, I don't think 10 makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking 4, but I'd be okay with 5, but I think 4 to keep things tight enough and recurring in the verbiage where it says it's recurring reauthorization every 4 years.
Yeah, I like the 5-year.
Yeah, I don't really have, I mean, 4 or 5, it doesn't, I don't have a preference one way or the other.
I just said 5 because in my head it said 5, and so
Yeah.
For me, the 4 was elections having consequences. You know, if they go crazy and do something crazy with it, it comes back before them within you know, a term.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm fine either way. We can, you know,
We can make that
we
decision in the
can
future.
revisit that, you know, Alex, at the next step of this, but you know, there's your window between 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Last comment, there's been some partners that have suggested more of a double SPD approach versus a single. So we would have like a Hood Canal, Shellfish Protection District, and then a South Sound, kind of dividing the county in 2. You know, while I can see some reasoning behind this, you know, I think, you know, our ultimate goal is to try to reduce administration and the amount of legwork that we have to do in creation of these things. And that's why we initially proposed a single SPD. But yeah, get your thoughts on that, I guess.
I can understand why they would ask that, because there's always a group that always worries that their area won't get the care that it needs out of the money that they're paying in. But at the same time, in this particular situation, when we have something that is affecting the water, we need to move that money where it's needed for the moment. We have to go out there and identify that pollution sometimes as it happens. And if it's so restricted that way, it may not be beneficial. Plus, when it comes to doing it through upstairs and asking our assessors and treasurers to deal with it, it simpler seems to be more realistic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the point is to do this. There's 2 points. One is to have one shellfish protection district process to streamline it so that there's not, you know, disparities, you know, popping up through, you know, staffing and citizen participation and all that kind of stuff that is important parts of the shellfish protection district plan. And then the other part of it, I think, is just maintaining kind of the, you know, the one county approach here, you know, and understanding that, you know, that we want to have a kind of a uniform process, you know, and then I think to avoid having an issue where, you know, the fee then becomes a certain fee in one district and a different fee in the other. And I just think it adds to the complication and the opportunity for the program to kind of go sideways. You know, just as we saw with 7 shellfish protection districts, you have 7 different approaches and 7 different processes, you know, more or less. And so just, I think it makes sense to do one. There are other organizations that are tailored to those specific regions between the Hood Canal Coordinating Council and Alliance for a Healthy South Sound. And I think there's plenty of groups out there advocating for specific parts, but I think for the work that we're interested in accomplishing, one district makes the most sense for the county.
I think it's called the Oakland Bay. I'm on the Oakland Bay group, and everyone agreed that one would be better than several.
Okay, great. Well, that's really all the feedback I had kind of gathered so far. So I'm working with our staff on kind of ironing out what would be included, what we could do and for how much. And I guess that would be the next discussion that I'll have with you that I'm just not quite ready for. So we can push that off till next briefing. But before that, I mean, is there any other concerns, questions, things I should be looking at? Anything you guys have thought of in the meantime?
Commissioners, what do you think about the removing of the cities and stuff? Pollution identification and control doesn't necessarily have to be septic. There's all kinds of different things that can come up and should come up that we should be able to look at and move quickly on.
So I'll throw my 2 cents in on that, and then I do have a couple of other things for Alex as well when we get to that point. I think they should be included. I live on a sewer, or well, I have septic, but I mean we have public water where we are, and I just think we're interacting with groundwater and infiltration in a very similar way that people who aren't on a municipal sewer or water system. So I think we should have just as much skin in the game in having clean water and these protections as other people.
And I do know that there's been some issues with the city here as far as their plant. And so, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, they have water outfall, as do we, and some of it. Our Belfair plant doesn't, but the rest of them do. So is that enough information for you on that one, Alex?
Yeah, it is. I'll have to look at, I'll talk with Tim some more on, because there is some language in the RCW that talks about excluding them, but it's not real clear in my opinion. So I'll talk with Tim on that more. Because it talks about exclusion of facilities permitted under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. And so I don't know if they'd be talking about the parcels served by that or the actual facility itself. I'll try to iron out some of that with Tim.
Thank you. Commissioner Schutte, you had other?
Yeah, so two other quick points or questions or comments, again, however you want to look at it. So first, if we go this route and we designate parcels that are allowable under RCW into the district, does it change anything for those property owners from a development perspective? So are there any other requirements or regulations, any kind of permitting requirements if they wanted to develop it in the future that would be restricted by having them included in the Clean Water District, or would they simply go through the same process they would have otherwise?
Well, there's nothing that we're proposing at this point that would pose any type of development restrictions for these parcels. I'm not aware of any SPDs that do that. There might be some, but without looking at each individual SPD and the code sections around them, I can't speak to that. But we're not proposing any type of thing like that right now.
Okay,
that's an excellent question, and Commissioner, I want to clarify. I want a little more clarification from what I'm hearing from you, Alex, is that in absent of us putting something in specifically, this will not have an impact on those that are looking to build in the future.
Correct. Yeah. No, there's nothing like that being proposed. I'm just trying to think ahead on how someone would even make that argument in the future. I mean, I don't know. So nothing like that is being thought of right now.
Well, I think too, let's, just keep it in mind. And if, as we go down the process here, and hopefully get closer to, putting something together that we could take action on, having language specific to that, in the whereases, that just to have that extra layer of assurance. I know that it doesn't, off the top of your head, it doesn't seem like that's required. I think some people might make that leap in their head. And if we can be more explicit, I think that would be helpful.
I think in a way we could maybe point it at the shoreline master plan as the overriding guidance on that.
Good point. Good point.
I would like it specified if possible, though. I agree with Commissioner Schutte, just better to have it specified so that for commissions in the future don't try to use it for that tool as well.
Yeah. And then the other question or comment that I had was, are tribal parcels, tribally owned parcels exempt from a potential fee? And what should we be thinking about in terms of ways to maybe encourage them to also have some skin in the game in funding this work?
Currently, we have not pulled out tribal parcels. We have used the assessor's exempt list, which I think there's some tribal parcels within that, but other than that, we have not done that. So to be clear, they're included within the SPD and they are not exempt, is what the current proposal is written up like.
Okay. Okay, just something else to kind of have in the back of your head, though, is as this ramps up a little bit and being aware of that dynamic.
Anything further, Commissioner Schutte?
No, not for me. Alex, what else do you need from us?
I think we're okay for now. Just, I guess, approval to proceed. You know, is this still a direction you guys want to go? And I'm hearing that it is. So we'll continue work on this, and we'll come back for another briefing and discuss kind of the funding part of it and how that would all shake out.
And then just if you could, if I'm sure part of that discussion internally for you, Alex, is going to be putting together, you know, kind of the scope of work or a project, you know, work description or position description or whatever for whatever FTE this would fund. If you could incorporate that into the conversation too, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And what we're working on right now is an actual, you know, set objectives on what we're trying to achieve for this. And we've got some written down. So I just want to refine that though and go over the costs, more importantly, the costs associated with those objectives. So we'll be bringing some details with you to you all. And yeah, I agree. I think there should be some specifics within that and not leave it too open-ended.
Great. No, I'm very supportive of this and appreciate all the work that you're putting into it. And I think I look forward to the next conversation, the next phase of this.
Commissioner Trask, do you have any questions or concerns?
I don't. I think it's kind of fun because my first year, we talked about this. Alex and are at our Oakland Bay meeting, and so it's kind of neat to see it moving forward and being refined, and so I appreciate you, Alex, for doing this.
All right, Alex, anything left for us?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Dave, anything more for us?
I think that's it for me.
No, not so fast.
Oh. No, not. That
So-
could be Raya 14, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So, commissioners, a little extra context here. Raya 14's group has asked us to consider leaving in the rooftop project as part of the plan to go out for local review. Dave and I met Friday, I guess it was, with Angela, who is our Commissioner Netherland. She's our Stacy, and then our facilitator, Susan Julik, and talked through some of the pros and cons of doing it. I had been a little bit on the fence about it. Admittedly, I think there are some benefits to pulling it. I think there are some benefits to leaving it in particular, as we bring it back for our local process. And so that's a little bit of the context. Dave might have some insight, but wanted to kind of solicit some opinions. We do need to have a conversation about what we want to do. We have another meeting tomorrow. And so just wanted to solicit some input from both of you. Dave, if you have anything to add.
No, Ecology would like to see that project go forward. I still run into the same concerns I have with having inconsistent regulations across the county. And the idea was, well, maybe we can do it later during adaptive management, but I don't think we get to I think NEB becomes a problem, the net ecological benefit. Without our project in, we do meet NEB, but there's not a big cushion. And I think Ecology wanted to see it in there as a cushion. So if something else falls through, we can still meet NEB. So it was kind of, Commissioner, I think it was part of their point they were trying to push forward was that, in RIA 14, it's different than RIA 22 and 23. And then in the other RIAs, we had 5 times as much projects as we needed for consumptive use. So we didn't have to have this to meet NEB down there. So that was kind of my pushback with them on Friday.
Dave, if we were to put it in place in one and not the other, it sounds like that does in your mind create a situation. For us to do this, it would require an action from the commission, and it would put a burden on future buildings. With that being said, I can see doing it if it's going to have the benefit that it is for the whole county, but I still have worries about it splitting this county, and that's put something into place that doesn't have a benefit and costing a landowner money to follow it. I will go with your recommendation on this. You're negotiating with 2 different areas, and you need to be, in my opinion, empowered to negotiate how you think best in order to get the best outcome for our county. So I'd like to have your recommendation on one way or the other, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, my conversations with our legal folks, they're uneasy with it being in one plan and not the other. And I am as well. And I think I have some lawsuit concerns that if we have it in one and not the other, around intent. So I saw College has some good points about trying to get the NEB. I'm all about trying to get the water that we're after, and this does provide 247, I think, acre feet per year at max build out. And it's possible we could take this on in both counties in adaptive management down the road. I think that might be a more consistent way to approach it. But we also have to consider, are the plans going to pass? With consensus in both 15 and 14, because that changes the dynamic quite a bit. So you could have as many as 4 different outcomes easily, 8 if you take into account both RIAs. So I know I kind of fall back on the consistency thing, and I'll hand over to Commissioner Schutte for any other.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that stuck with me from meeting with Angela and Susan last week was, just the uncertainty of what would happen if both plans didn't have consensus, which may happen. One may have consensus, one may not. There's a lot of different iterations there, right? I asked specifically, if we pull this out of 14, can Ecology then come up with other projects and ideas and implement them upon us? Basically say, great, you have now this to do, and that's an option. And so I think, from my perspective, maybe having us control our own destiny a little bit on a project that we have been otherwise supportive of, with Dave has worked on, Ecology has worked on, Ecology's consultants have worked on. If it was if it may still end up in both plans anyway. And so I don't know. I guess that's where I'm struggling with this a little bit. So I don't want to have ecology start doing our projects and telling us what projects to do. I'm not real comfortable with that. I do like to have a little bit of, control over our own destiny, so to speak, with a project that we were 100% behind until the Suquamish tribe in 15 vetoed it. Everybody else, with that exception, has been supportive of it. And so, I don't know why, other than that, we would walk away from something we were otherwise willing to put in the plan and support.
Dave, wasn't there a provision of some sort so that restricts ecology from doing just that and putting things into the plan for requirement from the county?
Well, ecology, I don't know if they can require us to do projects. They can require regulation, which would have to, I think, in turn be adopted by the county. If they put this into WAC or into RCW, I don't see going to RCW, I see going to the WACs through rulemaking. They can certainly recommend it to the legislature to go to RCW, but I don't see that happen. I think our goal is to give ecology the best plan that we can in case it gets vetoed, because they're going to use that as the base document to build their recommendation for rulemaking.
So is this more of a guidance for ecology, or how is it being viewed?
So there's a number of permutations. We could have this in RIA 14. It could pass or not pass without our project. There's 4 ways. We could put it in and it could pass or not pass with the project in it. Or we could take it out and it could pass or not pass without the project. There's 4 permutations, and then the same thing happens with RIA 15. So we have 8 different ways that this all could go, which complicates this. Ecology is is very insistent that they would like to see this project move forward. They would like to see it move forward in both, but when we had the Suquamish and WDFW push back in 15, that terminated the whole conversation there. They didn't even speak to it last week. So if we have it in and the plan does not pass, ecology, I think, can make the recommendation that we put this project in place. But my pushback on that is, unless we get a net ecological benefit that allows us to continue to develop, because that's what we're talking about, right? I mean, how can we allow homeowners to continue to develop and compensate for the water that they use? And if we get the ability to have this go towards that water that they use, okay. But if it's not going to be used, then I don't see the reason to saddle homeowners with $10,000 more in a development cost that's not going to get us moving forward in our countywide planning process.
I think that's my concern is what's the ultimate cost to developers or to somebody building?
One of the things we have to take into account is if we don't achieve net ecological benefit, they could close basins to development. That's the other part of this that we have to consider.
Which is a major thing, because then there's no development.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a far way away from where. One of the things that I want to remind you is people that are in that room with them. Eventually, we do this halfway, half and half. There will be a lawsuit to implement. It would make sense because of all the verbiage that's being used now in these meetings. Not only would it be used to implement, they'd be using to implement it through intent of our conversations and these groups, the plans they've come up with. And the big fear is that they use that same intent in rulemaking to expand on the scope, costing that developer much, much, much more to put into place if we don't have it put in on our grounds, how we want it done. That's quite a fear, and it's a fear that I think is a reality that if we don't admit it, we'll be making the same mistake as so many others did in YWER 15. They didn't see it coming, and now it's plain as day what's been happening.
I definitely support local control.
Yeah.
And I would rather not have the state tell us what to do. But I'll follow your recommendations because I'm not a part of the group, so I don't know every detail that you two do. So I will rely on you guys for this information.
Well, on this one, I will support Dave Wyndham's recommendation, as he's in both of them, has to negotiate on both sides. He's done a great job in 15 that I serve in, and I need to empower him to do the best that he can with the two organizations.
Yeah, Shruti, I'm just wondering if we approach it as we could put this into adaptive management for both RIAs. You think that would get us down the road anywhere?
Maybe, but then what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know, you can't be half pregnant.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, whatever we do, Dave, we have to be very specific in what we're doing so we don't get caught in those lawsuits and caught in between interpretation and what we've actually put forward. We don't have much time to table this either, so we I think we need to probably make a determination. Where are you feeling, Dave?
Well, in some ways, I'm torn. You know, I think the safe plan is to pull it out. I'm just concerned that if the ecology comes back with closure of basins, that really worries me. You know, we're kind of taking a gamble on either direction.
Well, if it's pulled out of one and not the other, wouldn't that argument still be the same because it's not in 15s?
Well, I think that argument certainly could be made.
I'm for giving Dave the ability to make that decision as he's negotiating it through for the best outcome for the county.
Commissioner Sheedy, are you going to be on the call tomorrow? Well, neither of us are. We're both going to be in Board of Health.
Oh, we will be. Well, I mean, it's at 1, so I mean, we'll be there until 2:30. So we get, you know, I asked them to put this up front for that reason.
Yeah, that's right.
So, well, Dave, you know, mull it over a little bit, and I mean, if something, you know, something changes, just, you know, you could let us know.
Okay.
You know what your thinking is if you need a little bit more time to kind of chew it over.
All right. And I may give Angela a call too.
Okay.
All right. Anything further for Dave on this? How about any other questions on anything else?
Nope.
Dave, do you have anything more for us?
Nope. I'm going to jump on the Riot 15 call.
Good luck with that one.
Thanks.
All right, guys, before we move into the next one, let's take a 5-minute break, please.
Sure.
Okay. All right, we have all the players on. Is everybody ready to continue, commissioners? Yes and yes. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and move into Public Works and with Loretta Swanson. Before I do, Loretta, let me apologize for not returning that phone call. I can't remember what happened, but I ended up running right out of the office when I was waiting to call you back. So please accept my apology.
No worries. We will catch up later.
Okay. So what do you have for us today?
Thank you. Okay, well, today, commissioners, we have just kind of some annual process items to share with you. We've got a couple of purchases that were included in our 2021 approved budget and some follow-up on some right-of-way or some road vacation requests. And so with that, I will, and actually, commissioners, if we could maybe rearrange the last bullet, the interdepartmental property trade, if we could swap that with road vacation 408, that might just kind of flow a little bit easier in our order here. So with that, I will kick it over to Mike and he will talk with you about our purchases and items that we have.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
First item up is the consultant selection of on-call for structural, geotechnical, and hydraulic services for the calendar year 21 and 22. Just simply put, back in September, the Board of County Commissioners authorized Public Works to execute an agreement for the on-call services. In December, we had the interviews, and we have selected for structural engineering, sergeant engineers. For geotechnical engineers, it's Landau Associates, and for hydraulic consulting, it's Skillings Engineering. So there's no action required on this. It's just an FYI.
All right, anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Nick?
All right, number 2 is the really interesting stuff. Road levy certification for 2021. The County Road Administration Board annually requests that every county legislative authority submit a certificate showing the amount of road levy fixed and amount, if any, budgeted in accordance with the RCW for traffic enforcement and other purposes for diverting road levies. So we're requesting, we've got this all ready to go. It's actually due February 2nd. So we're recommending that the board authorize the chair to execute the road levy certification for 2021.
Questions?
Not for me.
Their question? Are you just adjusting, Commissioners Trask?
I'm looking at the calendar just to make sure that, now, does this need to go on a meeting? Or
It'll be on your next board meeting. We've already talked to Crab that we're going to be a few days late for the next board meeting.
all right, thank you.
Next.
Next item is to purchase 2 automatic flaggers assistant device. These devices are remote controlled, and so then what they'll do is, instead of having 2 flaggers standing out in the street doing that job, we'll have these devices, and then one flagger will be able to control both of them. So it allows the flagger to be able to move around. It gets the flaggers out of harm's way in a sense too, and it makes us a little more efficient. These things don't work on every situation, but in most of our activities, they'll be able to work. So it's budgeted for 2021, and there were demo units. So these are used units. The used units are around $26,695. New ones are around $35,000. So we're saving a little money there. We'd recommend the board to authorize Public Works to purchase the 2 automated flagger devices.
Okay, so they're $12,750 per unit, not 25 per unit. Just double checking.
Yes, they're 12 per unit. Yes.
Okay. Questions, Commissioners?
Yeah, just real quick, Mike. Would this change any of your seasonal help needs, or would that be affected at all by these purchases?
No, we'll still want to do the seasonal help then, because there's lots of other activities for them to be in. This is just going to be one set. We're going to try them out, see how we like them, and then utilize them from there. The seasonal help is really advantages doing paving operations and chip sealing operations. These pieces of equipment are more for static operations like brushing and installing culverts, things like that. So.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
30 plus years ago, I actually was a flagger. It's one of the jobs when I worked for the PUD. You had to be a flagger. There are roads where this is going to be invaluable because no matter what, you can't see each other. You can't get a good line of sight, and it's not even a good place to come around the corner to safely put a human being. I think this is a good move.
Well, so every time I drive by the flaggers, they'll wave. Will these wave?
We can set something up.
For an extra 10,000 per unit.
Right, right.
All right, so everybody's okay with putting that on the agenda?
I am, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Next item up is the purchase of the Midland Road Widener. Public Works maintains about approximately 1,240 miles of road shoulders throughout the county. So currently, when the road shoulders need to be maintenance and repaired, we'll actually spread rock onto the road and then grade it off with the grader. What this does is actually segregates the rock and reduces the quality of compaction. So it's not very efficient. So looking at the road widener attachments, basically a machine that will place the materials that you need directly onto the shoulder. So it specifically puts the gravel or coal mix or hot mix asphalt onto a shoulder. So this would allow us, as goes on here, to actually place asphalt on the shoulders and pave them so that they'll be a hard surface for errant vehicles, pedestrians, bicycles, and whatnot. So it'll actually improve the safety of the road system. So
will this actually work on intersections and like areas where traffic is pulling out, they're going into the dirt areas there? Will we be able to pave those using this on a curve?
that is exactly what we're the road supervisors are now going out and marking out and stationing those locations exactly as you described, so that we can get to those first and widen those areas.
Wow. I don't know how much we get charged for that damage every year, but this may save us this much.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a really nice machine. We'll try to wear it out in the next 10 years.
Anybody have any issue with moving forward on that one?
I don't.
I think you got the okay to go ahead there also.
I'll wear it out. Just make, we don't want to purchase another one too soon.
We'll take care of it.
What are we doing? The interdepartmental transfer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next one up, commissioners, we've got both Mike and Richard here to
Make a deal.
make a deal. Happy with the deal.
Mm-hmm. I have a Vector. He has a need for a Vector, more so than I do. So the deal is, we purchased a Vector back in 2018. It's a 2006 Vector. It's in really good shape, much more so than what we've been able to find as of recent. We don't use it as intended. It really is oversized for us in a lot of applications, as in cleaning out somebody's grinder. We need like a temporary roadway on their premises if we were going to do that, and we're not going to do that. And then the other is, we don't have a place that we can readily decant without introducing garbage into our treatment plant system. So we just don't use it as what was the initial thought it would be. Mike definitely has much more use for it than I do. And he's got a couple of items that I have a need for. One is a backhoe that they recently surplused, and we would like to use that out at the transfer station in case if our front end loader is down, we've got no way to clear that deck until we get a loader back or we rent one. We did that in the past. We rented one. It cost us a bunch of money, and then it cost us more to repair the tires that all went flat. So this one's, the thought is to get this backhoe with foam filled tires, and also included in this, we're looking at a used Ford Escape that they recently surplused, that our solid waste booth attendants would have a great need for during inclement weather conditions. Belfair's a little bit of a drive for most, and it's icy. It's a hazardous road. This would give them much more reliable transportation to make sure that station stays open, and or hood sport or whatever else would need to be open. If wherever the need is, we'd be able to get somebody there more reliably. Currently, we have two-wheel drive vehicles. And so we're that's kind of the deal. That's what we would get that, and apparently $69,891.03 of credit.
And 3 cents.
And 3 cents. I mean, yeah, that's what happens. You get Victor and Jeremy, they're right down to the penny.
Okay, any issue with that, commissioners?
Not for me.
I watched Kevin's mind going, you were thinking of a good line to throw out there on that one.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and move forward there also.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last item on the list here, road vacation number 408, the hearings examiner's recommendation. Public Works had received a request from Damon Gustafson of Northwest Logging Company to vacate a public easement along the south boundary side of one of his properties off of Channel Point Road. This is part of the plat of Skookum Point tracts in 1947. Staff came up with the information and did a presentation for the hearings examiner. And noted on here is basically this right of way, this particular piece of right of way is isolated from any of our road systems, so it's really not of a value to us in that sense. So the hearings examiner on January 13th issued his findings and facts and conclusions of law and recommendations, and he recommends the approval of the proposed vacation.
So your request is to put it on the calendar for a hearing?
It's already had a hearing. This is the actual action to act upon his recommendations.
Commissioners?
How many more do we have before the new, because I know we changed. So
As I could guess, Commissioner, it's just this is the last one, I believe, that's currently on the books before we have the process of the new code applications.
Just so I have no issue with this, but I just learned something pretty interesting that I had never thought of in all the years of doing these. When we do these, we actually have an impact on the assessor, which makes sense. We did that one at the Lakewood plats where they had all those properties that went through. Each one of those parcels had to be redesigned and re-inputted with the new meets and bounds and adjustments and the values adjusted as well. I never in all the years have ever thought of that about that, but I just thought I'd share that with you guys that that's what occurs whenever this is done.
Yeah, that's correct. And then we also update our GIS layer as well. So once the assessor has reviewed and redone the boundary lines, then we update the GIS layer also.
So did they get a portion of the fee?
They do not.
Yeah, that's something I hope we can talk about soon because they've got some needs that are coming up and we probably should be looking at some type of charge to go for, from this to that taxing district to this other part. Just in the future, not today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Happy to talk with them about that.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Next.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Next, we had some follow-up to talk about road vacation 404, and Public Works has nothing new to bring forward at this time. So if it's agreeable with commissioners, we'll bring that perhaps next week or excuse me, the following briefing.
I have no issue with that.
Yeah, that's fine. If you need more time or have other things to do, that's good.
Yep, me too.
Okay.
What else you got?
And then regarding the vacation for 406 for the Jones proposal, Commissioner Netherland, I believe last time we briefed, you had a question about the process, if I understood it right. and whether or not a resolution to vacate was needed. Did I understand the question correctly?
Yes, where historically, when it had already been vacated by the process of law, we had acknowledged that it was vacated by the process of law instead of us vacating.
By resolution, correct?
I couldn't remember whether it was done by resolution, but it probably is because we did it, at the dais, so it had to have been, I guess.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and then so Mike's got some information to relay. We did talk with some title companies about that to make sure that we were all on the same page about what they needed for clear title.
Yeah, we contacted a couple of the local title companies. I don't have both of them here. I have the one, the title office land title company.
Yeah.
And David DeWall there on email back and forth, and he said yes, for them to be able to insure the vacation property, even if it is by operational law, that they would have to have the title quieted, and that's through a formal vacation process with the county. So they would, to be able to insure the property, they would really, that process would have to be followed.
And I know we did something different than that, though. I'm positive.
It may be just for the fact of by resolution, we recognize it by the operation of law.
And I think that's what we did. That's what I was saying earlier. I think instead of vacating it through a process, we recognized it by application of law that it had been vacated and that the county will not claim any.
And we can resubmit it to you with those wording.
Just to be consistent, I would appreciate that.
All right. Will do. Okay, Commissioners, that's all we've got on our table today. You have
anything for them?
I do not.
I don't. Appreciate Loretta giving me a call and talking things over. You guys are always so easily to reach to, so I appreciate that.
I have a new one for you. I got a phone call from the North Mason School District, and we had an unintended consequence. When we were doing Sandhill and we fixed that area up there, we removed, it was asked whether we would have a park zone or a school zone or both. And it was decided just to go with the park zone because it just made more sense to simplify it. But looks like we need to revisit that and look at putting the school zone back over the top of it, because by removing the school zone, we remove the ability for a certain area, a group of children to be able to walk to school.
Okay.
Never saw that one, but Dana called me and she just found that out herself. So if we could find a way to put back on the school zone over the top of that, and maybe have both, I guess, it would be appreciated so we can get those kids, now that they're opening up, as soon as possible.
Okay, I believe that both Dave and Mike had already identified this as a potential issue, Commissioners, so we'll respond and follow up with Dana.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
That's all I had. All right, nothing else there? Okay, thank you, Loretta. So,
all right.
Is there any commissioner discussion? For those that, no? Kevin, any commissioner discussion?
Nope, not for me.
Okay. For those that tuned in later, District Court, their request has been moved to another time. It'll come up on another briefing agenda. So we are going to be moving into a closed session, labor discussion. Where's Frank? Frank, are you expecting any action afterwards? And do you have an amount of time that we will be in closed session?
Between 20 and 30 minutes and no action required.
Okay, so we will go into a closed session with for 30 minutes with no action to come at the end. We'll move into adjournment for the day afterwards, if there's no objection, commissioners.
Commissioner, you have a hand raised. I don't know if that's.
we're at. Whoever it is, please just unmute and make yourself known.
Hello, this is Ken Van Buskirk.
Oh, hi, Ken.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. I didn't hear anything about the Roy Bode Road vacation.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to discuss that today.
No,
They
and
asked for more time.
that's been held off for another time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further? Then we will adjourn to a closed session for 30 minutes with no action be taken and move into adjournment afterwards.
See you on the other side.